Hi everyone, my name's Graham Russell from HSC Technology Group. I'm the Managing Director and thank you very much for joining us today on our webinar, particularly covering off aged care's Big 5 challenges. We'll be going through these Big 5 challenges and communicating, but today is really around is that we're aware the whole aged care industry is in a state of flux. And what we're looking at is wanting to discuss these Big 5 challenges. Today, we'll be running a series, and today's the first one of those series is we've got better compliance that we'll be going through, and how do we cope with these new changes around compliance. Our next one will be staff engagement, and obviously the challenges that we're seeing across the industry of people being able to attract staff and keep them. Thirdly will be communication with family members, staff members and so forth. How we improve resident autonomy will be our fourth, and our last one will be commercial viability. And so today, what we'd like to do is that to really go through a few bullet points around the challenges that we're seeing with compliance. Obviously, we have a challenge where the Royal Commission is now requiring significant more reporting and more information. This is creating challenges around risk mitigation, process and adherence and data trails and reporting. We need to obviously work out how we're going to implement these changes in a simple way and protecting your team against legal action, but also ensuring resident data and privacy. One of the pieces that I'd like to cover off today is in any business principles, if we want to improve something, we have to be able to measure it. And if we need to measure it, we need to collect data. And currently the challenges for the aged care sector is the way that we collect data and information. So I'm going to take the next sort of 10 or 15 minutes to run through some of our platforms and software and how that works. But what we wanted to do is actually go through and talk about some common scenarios that come up in relation to what's happening with compliance. And I'm going to use a couple of use cases. So one is we've got a client who, previous to having our system, this was his scenario. He was a general manager of an aged care facility. And in that aged care facility, he had a complaint from a family member. And that family member called in and said, my mother has been left on a recliner for 2 days. The manager said, we'll investigate that. Unfortunately, this got then pushed through to the tribunal, and then was escalated to the CEO of the organisation, and then an investigation started. In that investigation is that the general manager has now gone to the director of nursing and asked that director of nursing, what's happened? That director of nursing has now gone to the registered nurse that was on shift on that ward at that day and asked what's happening. Unfortunately, the only data that we've actually been able to collect was some notes that were actually placed in the care management system. The problem with that is that we also had a temp staff member on that day, and some of the notes aren't very valid. The outcome of what's happened is that this organisation has spent over 100 hours investigating this process, hasn't got any information, has got obviously the reputational damage of going to the tribunal, and still has nothing to protect themselves to understand, did they do what they were supposed to do, or was there an issue? And this is a common part of what the issue is that we actually believe spot checking is what's literally killing the aged care sector, is that we don't have any meaningful way to collect information. And as I was sort of hitting before is that if we want to improve something, we actually need to measure the data. That's like anything, like if I would like to lose weight, I need to measure and understand what my starting weight is, so if I'm improving or declining. If I want to run a race, I want to know if I'm running faster or slower. So how do we do this in aged care where the compliance measures have been recommended by the Royal Commission has shown me, for example, we want to monitor how many falls there are. We want to monitor a resident's putting on weight or losing weight. We want to monitor activities of daily living. We want to monitor how much care time has been allocated. The issue is that what the aged care sector has been doing is basically doing to-do lists. And there's nothing wrong with to-do lists. But what we continually keep hearing from carers and providers is that we have a situation where we're gathering information in a manual way in to-do lists that doesn't allow us to obviously collate that data and it sort of becomes very repetitive and inefficient. It's very slow and there's no meaningful interactions. It doesn't actually stop anything, and residents tend to find this quite undignified, it's embarrassing, and the whole part of this is familiarity breeds complacency. So what we're looking at is that for us to really improve compliance is that we don't want to put more to-do lists in. Carers today are already saying that they're spending anywhere from 20 to 30% of every shift actually just collecting information. And that's taking them from the actual role that they're there to do. So I would like to go through, and I'm actually going to give you a little bit of a demo of our platform and how we actually implement simple, scalable solutions that actually collect the data autonomously. So it doesn't create any more work, but also improves autonomy, safety, and also dignity for residents. So I'm just going to pause this presentation, and I'm going to go into a portal of one of our parts of our Talius platform. So if you can see me there, I'm just actually showing a sensor up here. This is a sensor that actually is placed under the corner leg of the bed. This actually replaces a bed mat. I personally hate bed mats. I find them clunky, they're uncomfortable, they're noisy, they're not very dignified, there are falls risks, they're big issues. This sensor changes all of that. And so if you can have a look, if we can just present up this software, this actually is a live village right now. We don't have a lot of people in bed, but we can actually show you some information there. This sensor is now collectively showing me who is in bed and who is out of bed at any one time. I also have their heart rate and breath rate, and you'll probably ask how we do that through ballistic cardiograph. I won't go into the detail, but it's all, it works amazingly. So if we look at Ethel here, I can see that she's got her heart rate is at 65 beats per minute and 16 breaths per minute. I'm also monitoring her level of movement. What this allows us to do, in example, is that through compliance, is that we're actually collecting information. We're currently, staff are doing staff rounding and collecting little bits of information every 2 to 3 hours. So if I do a staff round every 3 hours, I open the door, check the resident, that's a 30-second check. This here is monitoring this resident 12 hours a night, 24 hours a day, and we're collecting all this information autonomously. So we can see last night that this resident slept for 8 hours and 50 minutes and didn't get out of bed once. I can see their average beats per minute and their average breath rate. I can see the quality of their sleep, and we've got the averaging of all the data. What we do now is that we start to be able to manage by exception. So one person can see a whole 100 residents and actually understand if they're in bed, alive and breathing. So I don't have to disrupt them with staff rounding. I've got all the information at my fingertips that comes into a platform. So we can see the sleep cycles and so forth. We also can create the alerts in here to create proactive alerts around pressure sores, bed rolls and so forth. So what we're trying to move from is not a reactive solution of nurse call, but to a proactive platform that gives us preliminary information that we can act on. So in this alert settings, for example, here, you can see that we can activate sensors. So there's not any movement for 2 hours, that we can do a bed roll. If getting up too frequently, hasn't returned to bed, has got off the bed, abnormal breath rate, heart rate, we create all these alerts and push it straight to the carer on the floor with that information immediately. I also want to take you to the next level of our compliance platform. So this is another portal of ours called part of the Talius platform, and it's classified as real-time location systems. So this is a project that we won an international tender for in Singapore. It actually goes live on the 15th of December. But I'd just like to show you, it's a 6-story building with 180 residents. Now I'm just going to turn this off. So this is the older style, where we have a nurse's station and 4 people in one room and 1 bathroom, 1 toilet. What we've installed in this site with technology is an anchor. This anchor is actually installed in the ceiling. It's completely autonomous and no one can see it. So if I just turn those back on, You'll see that we have one over the bedroom and bathroom. So what then we have is the residents actually wear a nice stylish device like so. It's also the nurse call emergency button. It's also got a falls detection in it, but it also creates as a situation that we can locate the resident. And also is that we utilize this for staff and assets. So how does that work? Very quickly, is if you can see my mouse there, is that I can tell how well the client's sleeping, how long they've been in bed, how often they've gone to the toilet, how many times they've had a shower. We use it also for access control for lifts. We monitor meals, activities. This is the bottom floor. So this is the kitchen area. So if I just turn off those. So when the residents come down and into the kitchen, we then monitor meals. We also monitor out of bed and so forth. And so what we're looking at here is that we utilize this for dementia monitoring and access control. This isn't a huge amount of data. So we've now basically gone previously that we've had no data to the situation now that we have an enormous amount of data. With this is that we can actually have complete transparency of everything's happening in the business and in the facility, and also can be shared with the key stakeholders. So what we do with this data, to give you some quick examples, is that we create policies. What we're trying to do is that a lot of people felt, if we want to improve compliance, we need to put more spot checking in, we need to do more auditing, we need to use video. Well, actually, that's all wrong. When we use it in this way, is that we can use information to protect staff and support them, not punish them. For example, we have rules here. So if a resident hasn't attended dinner, if they haven't attended dinner, we'll create an alert to the care team to say Bill hasn't come for dinner and he is still in his room. If someone hasn't had evening tea, we'll give an alert and say Jane is out in the garden and can you go and grab her? So this helps around obviously meal and nutrition. We also then monitor alerts obviously for falls, emergency alerts and nurse call. So if someone presses a button, we know exactly where they are. They're on the floor, floor 3 next to the lift, or they're in their toilet or whatever it may be. We're also monitoring sleep. We have also violence alerts as dementia is increasing. We also do it for medication management. It is endless, to the point is that we can monitor it for cleaners, how well they're cleaning rooms, we monitor fridges, all of that stuff. So we now have a situation where we have sensors that are autonomously collecting information that goes to the Talius platform. In that platform, we can then create alerts that proactively supports the care team. The beautiful part is that for the resident, they can now actually have more privacy. So instead of someone coming in and saying, how'd you sleep last night? Have you been to the toilet? Was that a number 1 or a number 2? Have you had your meal? Have you had a shower? So all of these type of things can go away, and then we have the system continuously monitoring. And we try and do it in a way that's very simple. So as I've shown, with 3 small devices, battery operated waterproof sensors, small anchors, and a sleep sense, we have collected more information than any resident has ever had, ever. This technology has been around for quite a while. The beautiful parts of it is that the cost effectiveness of it and the scalable solutions of networking communications now makes it really viable. So coming back to that is that where we want to come to is to mention quickly our partnership with CSIRO. CSIRO and HSE have been collectively working together to, we're collecting so much information is that we need to, and because we've got the problem of shifts in people and temp staff and all of these type of challenges, is that we need a way to simply present the information. I can't give you a live example. We've got an example here of Mark, one of our data engineers. And so this is an example of us actually matching this data across our duty of care of meal preparation, dressing, hygiene, transfer and mobility. So for the people on the call will be aware that these are the parts of the ACAT assessment. And so what we're understanding is that, we had meals, dressing and hygiene. And what we do is if we start to monitor over a 28-day period, if we start to see any anomalies, we will actually create an alert. And so, for example, if someone's hygiene dropped, this would go from green to yellow to red. And if you'd like to, you can log into the system and it will give you all of the data that's been mislead. So we start to look for an average baseline, and if we see a deviation, we then create alerts in relation to it. So this, yet again, instead of being a nurse call, react, we're actually going to the front end of this and proactively looking at it. So this is how it improves our compliance. So going back to now our presentation, just to conclude, I'll just very quickly run through that platform. I just wanted to give you a bit of a snapshot of the census to say, this is all real, this is all live, and it's actually being used now. So I'll just put that back in the presentation mode, and then we can go through from there. I see a question there from Sarah, just a quick one is, yes, all that sensor data is shared with the family, but only usually triaged by the provider. So we're very aware of what family wants to see and what they don't want to see, so we can curate all of the data. So the Talius Smart Care platform is, this is it. It is a lot of software. It's actually hosted in Australia and under AWS. And I'd like just to point up the top, if you could look at the thing where we say awareness. The awareness part is that we always do need a 24-hour emergency response. Like our platform is designed, it works over home care and it works in retirement villages. We've just seen an obviously immediate demand for this data, particularly in residential aged care because of the challenges. But with an emergency response is that you can utilize any nurse call system to bring those alerts in. The second part of awareness is what we've talked about, is we want to move from reactive to start to move to proactive care. We need to monitor vital signs. Now, vital signs is quite manual, and that's the beauty part of this new sleep sense device, that it starts to autonomously collect some basic vital signs. We've then talked about IoT sensors, and those sensors are basically falls detection and so forth, and collecting information in the environment. So we're also monitoring them, as to say, with the environment tag. We monitor fridges, we monitor drug fridges, medication carts and cabinets. And the part in the middle is the geospatial intelligence, which is a huge part, the most important part of the compliance, that we can, as providers, actually prove what we said we were going to do. Now, as I'm going to reference that awareness, is I'm going to go down to the next level, and that's the analysis. And the analysis is where Talius actually aggregates all that data set and brings it in together and analyzes the information to create these data-informed care plans, daily living dashboards and care schedules. But on the other side, for management, is reporting, compliance, and even benchmarking. The last part of Talius is really around the action, is that we can send these signals to 24/7 emergency response centres all over Australia and New Zealand. We can send it directly to carers, we can communicate back to residents, and we also can present that to family and so forth. As we showed there very quickly, all the reports are customizable. They can go to the individuals of their family member, they can go to the carers on the floor, they can go to executives. And we have doing sites and companies with like 70 plus sites where we can collate all of that information back in together and create benchmarking and data. So when we have a situation where I was talking about is how we aggregate all the data. So when a CEO, unfortunately today, may get a call and saying is that my father has level 3 pressure sores and was left on the toilet for 2 hours and we've reported you to the tribunal, we can print a report like this, showing how many nurse call alerts have happened in the last 14 days, how well that resident has slept last night, what their breaths per minute, what their heart rate is, their activities of daily living, what meals, how many times they've been to the toilet, where the showers are, have they had a shower, have they been in, social. And then what we then, the last part of it is that we then aggregate that data over the 28-day average and then start to create proactive alerts. For example, here is one where we've got a mobility alert. So a resident's usually taken 3,400 steps. Today they took 2,133. Their mobility dropped by 32%. And we've also seen that their hygiene alerts, they normally go to the toilet 10 times and they've gone 16. That's not a red, and now as our system we can create the sensitivity levels, but we actually understand that there is something here that we need to investigate. So, in conclusion, Just very quickly, a lot of you would never have heard of us. HSC Technology Company is that we're a small listed company. We work over all Asia Pacific. We white label our solutions and products and bring them and partner with providers. We're already trusted by some of the biggest providers in Australia, and we already work with a number of partners who are very respected in the industry. And so what we like to do is that, in that 30-minute conclusion, if it's something you're interested in, we can install the Talius platform, and we can start slowly and improve your levels of compliance and efficiency. So I just wanted to, I see we've got a couple more minutes, so I'm just going to bring up if there's any questions. So I've got a question there. How is a Talius real-time location sensor worn? Is it a pendant? We have about 10 different types of location sensors. So this is an example of the jewelry version. We also have watch band versions. We have sensors that are embedded in clothing. We have also ones that are embedded in belts and so forth. It does require a sensor to actually do the location. We've also seen is that, so I was just wondering if there was any questions, if anyone else had any questions there. So it's quite a bit of a longer presentation, so it's just very quickly just snapshotting it there so you can get a feel. And obviously, as we move forward from this one from compliance, we're going to move into staff engagement. And some of the snapshots of that is that if we want to retain staff and engage them, is that when they feel protected, when they feel empowered, is that we'll show on the other side what the actual carers start to feel, and some of their information and feedback. We'll even show you some testimonials. How reliable is the heart rate monitor? Is that we've tested it against TGA. TGA is 97% and ours is at 95%. So works on wheels, timber, aluminium, steel, all beds. So we have ramps and all that sort of stuff, and it's been extremely reliable. What else I was going to mention? We've also got other bits with that sensor, how we can do dementia wandering. So when you go off the bed, it will turn on lights and so forth. That's not an issue at all. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to mention then. Rightio. Just seeing if there's any other questions coming through. I don't think we've got anything else there. I'm just trying to think of some other key questions. A couple other ones that do get brought up is that, how long this type of technology has been around for a while, and I'll probably just share with you how it's been made possible. It was actually through Bluetooth 5. Bluetooth 5 has allowed three things to happen. It's improved location accuracy down to about 0.5 meter. Secondly is that the battery life has increased tenfold. So out of these devices, we're getting anywhere from 1 year to 2 years battery life. They are waterproof, so they can be worn in showers and so forth. And the third part is that the price, because Bluetooth is now being basically implemented in every car, phone, computer, every electronic device, it's extremely cost effective. And so through our partnership network is that very easy to deploy, and we're continuing to work with our partners to continue to make new devices that can then feed back into the Talius platform. So with that, I might conclude. If there's any interest of wanting to look at some more information or anything like that, please give us a call and we can go into a lot more depth. But we'll call a close there and say thank you very much and happy Friday. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next series on staff engagement. Thanks very much.